Hello wonderful people, it's Wild here. Today I'll be showing you how to build a fantasy medieval build that can be styled in several different ways. This spacious build could be decorated in several ways, as a mansion, an inn, or in my case as a tavern. And I'm going with a warm red to yellow gradient for my roof. But there are several ways you could customize this build, and I'll be showing you some variations at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. Having a look at this build, you can see that it has grand gables, as well as whimsical twisting chimneys, and plenty of intricate details that make this build feel extra special. The materials you'll need for this build are on your screen now. Keep in mind that it's always useful to have a few extra of each supply, and you can customize this by swapping out whatever blocks you like. Here's the outline for today's build. You can see that the main structure of the tavern is 17 by 9 blocks. Then we've got some posts marked in there. Those are for the edges of our terraces. At the back, we've got 3 block gaps between both the build and the posts, and between each of the posts. And then at the front, there is a 3 block gap between the 3 posts, and they are 1 block away from the build. We're going to start this build by marking off all of our windows and doors on this lower story. I'm going to be using a temporary block for this, so in my case I've got some wool. The reason I like to go in and do this before I place in my glass is it just gives me a better layout, and then I don't have to accidentally break glass and waste resources in survival. So these first 2 windows, we're counting 2 blocks in, placing in a 2 high window, then we'll count 3 more blocks across and place in another 2 high window. Then we'll come around to the left hand side of the build, and we're going to do the same thing. Count 2 in, build a window, count 3 across, and build another window, and this window should also be 2 blocks in. Then on the back wall, we're going to count 2 in and place in a window, count 3 across and place in another window, and it should line up with the one at the front, and we're going to remove this window here. So we've just got 1 window on the lower story. The next half of the build, if we come around to the front on this right hand side, is going to be raised up 1 level, so we'll need to raise up our windows and doors by 1 block. So I'm starting by counting in 2 blocks and marking off my doorway 1 block above the ground here. Then I'm going to count 3 blocks over, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to jump 2 blocks up and add in a window. Like this, so you can see it's 1 higher than the windows down here, and it should be centered in between these 2 post locations, and 3 blocks away from that window. Coming around to this side, we're going to mark in 2 windows. Both of them are going to be 2 high off the ground, and they are 2 blocks in from the edge each time. So 1, 2, 1, 2. Then around to the back, we're just going to have our window and door here. Our window is lined up with our door at the front, so 2 blocks in. Then we'll count 3 blocks over and add in our doorway 1 block above the ground, and so that should line up with the window opposite it and be 3 blocks away from this window here. Now that we've got all of those marked in, we can start adding in the walls, and for this we'll be using a mixture of stone brick, cracked stone brick and cobblestone. And I'm going to be placing these in a randomized texture to give a worn out, old appearance to the build. So what we're aiming for are walls that are 5 high, so that'll end up sitting 1 block above the height of these taller windows and 2 blocks above the height of our doors. And I'm just going to go ahead and fill in these walls. Now don't be afraid to come back in and replace and break blocks to get a texture you're happy with, and if you're in creative and have ample supplies, you might find it easiest to start with 1 block like this and then go ahead and texturize afterwards. You've just got to find a system that works well for you. So let's fill in all of these walls. So I've got all my walls in and texturized, and the last thing I need to do is come underneath my doorways and remove the stone block under there and add in a stripped dark oak log. And there we go for our other doorway. And let's have a look at each face so you can see the texture and window and door placement. So here's the front wall. Then we'll come around to the left hand side, coming around to the back, and remember you can always pause to follow along with the texture I've created, and then finally the right hand side of the build. Next, let's go ahead and remove all of these temporary blocks. I'm going to be placing some white stained glass in each of the windows, and then for the doorways, we're going to use spruce doors. They have such a great medieval effect. The reason I'm using the white stained glass here rather than regular glass is it kind of gives an imperfect look to the glass panes. Alright, let's add in our doorways. 1 and 2. And then we're going to come inside the build to add in a floor and walls. So we're going to be having a dividing wall between these two sections of the build. I'm going to grab my stone bricks and I'll build in 2 blocks, and I'm going to finish one below the height of the wall. So you can see that this wall is centered between the door and the window on this side and the 2 windows on that side. I'm going to place in 3 spruce stairs like this, and then I'm going to place a stripped spruce log going over the top. Now for the floors, I'm using stripped dark oak logs. In this raised section, I'm going to have them running the same direction as the doors. And then in this lower section, I'll need to dig out my ground material here, and I'm going to have the floor running in the opposite direction, so that's this way. This provides a little bit of visual separation as well as our physical separation there with the wall. There we go. I'm going to add a few more beams in. We've got one coming along this way in the stripped spruce log, and then I'll find the center of this wall and add another going across here. So we've got 4 3x3 squares left over. And then over in this section, we're going to create a similar effect, but this time we use spruce slabs as our ceiling is a bit lower here. So again, I found the center of this wall and the center of this wall, and it'll look like this from above. Now for most of the decorations, we'll be adding those in after we've got the main structure complete. But we need to add a few of our decorations now before we add in the next walls, and that's above these 2 windows and our doors. What I'm going to do is find the center of the door or the window. I'll build out with a temporary block, 1 like this and then 1 to either side. So we've got a 3 wide section. I'll place 3 hay bales going along like this, followed by 3 more of my temporary block and 3 more hay bales. And I can remove those temporary blocks. Then I'm going to place 2 rails going up like this, and this is going to make this one have a diagonal. I can remove the top 2 now. I'm going to go in with some ladders, 1 here and 1 here, followed by some dark oak fence gates, 2 underneath. And I'm going to do this above my other doorway at the back, as well as those 2 end windows. So again, we need to build out with our red wool first, then our hay bales, and then we need to decorate. The reason we're doing this now and not later on is we're going to be having some beams going across here, and they'll get in the way of creating this decoration. And the other 2 are just the same. There we are, we've got those 4 in, and now back onto the structure. For the next story, we're going to start with some spruce stairs and stripped spruce logs. I'm going to come to the left-hand side and I'm placing in a few stairs upside down like this. I'm also going to count 3 across and add in 1 here, which should be in line with this beam, and 1 on the front as well. Like that. On the opposite end of the build, I'm going to do the same thing, adding in 3 of these stairs. And then at the front of the build, I'm going to jump 1 down here, place another in here, and another 1 in here. These 3 stairs are going to get a stripped spruce log on top, like this, and we're going to do the same thing at the back. So 1 here, and 1 here, with a stripped spruce log on top. Then we're going to take a temporary block and place 1 in each corner. We'll use these to place in some stripped spruce log beams going all the way around the perimeter of the build. And then go ahead and remove these blocks. And in their place, you need to place in a spruce slab, and this should be at the top level of the block. Now we're going to mark in the locations of some posts, so let's come to the front of the build for this. I'm going to start by placing one in this left-hand side front corner. I'll then count over 3 blocks and add in another, count in 3, add in 1 more. Then I'm going to come and place one on this corner and count 4 blocks in. 1, 2, 3, 4. And place one in here. There should be a 4 block gap on this side of the post as well. Like this. I'm going to do the same thing along the back. And then I'm going to take some spruce stairs. I'm going to be placing one in here and one in here. So that is above these 2 sections where we added in the extra spruce log. I'm then going to have spruce slabs coming across from here. And I'm going to place in 3 more strip spruce logs. One here, one in front of that post, and in here. We're going to do the same thing on the front of the build now. So one on either side and one on the center. So you can see that we have these diagonal posts and these 2 which are doubled up. For our final couple of posts for this story, we're going to come to either end and count 3 blocks in from each side. This is going to leave us with 2 posts here and a 1 block gap in between. Then we need to make all of these posts a total of 5 blocks high, so I'm going to add 4 blocks on top. 1, 2, 3, 4. And do this to each one. Next, I'm going to take some ladders and I'm going to come inside the build. I'm going to be placing these up here, but of course the location you place your ladder to reach the second story entirely depends on how you decorate, so you can always move this later. I'm just placing some trapdoors here, and then I'm going to fill in this whole floor area with some more stripped dark oak logs. You can have these running in either direction, or you could choose to make a pattern. I'm just going to have mine running this way. I'm just filling in the last section now. Of course, I've got to leave out the area for my ladder, and I'm going to raise the ladder up 1 higher and place in my final block. Next, I'm going to take some more stripped spruce logs and I'm going to go around the perimeter of this build, connecting up each of these posts. You should find that the gap below is 4 blocks high. I'm then going to come inside the build and I'm going to add an extra beam connecting these posts on the interior. So from above it'll look like this is twice as thick. Then I'm going to add in some interior beams, and these are just there for style, so you can leave these out if you're low on resources. But I'm going to go between each of these gaps of 3 and this gap of 4. And then I'm going to run some the other way, connecting up to these 2 end posts. So it'll look like this from above. I'm going to take a few more of these strip spruce logs, and we have 3 coming out from the front and back. And then 4 from either side. 1, 2, 3, 4, and over this side as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now onto the walls, and again we'll be starting by marking in our windows. For this story, it's fairly simple. We're just going to be marking in a 2-high window in each panel centered like this. So I'm going to go ahead and add these all the way around. I'm going to leave out these 1-wide sections on each side, so it'll look like this. But each of the panels should be exactly the same. Back around here on the back of the build as well. And then the last 2 on the side. Next, I'm going to come inside the build, And on the front and the back, you can see that these windows are set one back from these posts. So I'm just going to extend this marker backwards. Like this. Now onto our walls, and I'm going to be using a mixture of smooth sandstone and regular sandstone. I'm going to start by working inside the build on these two front panels and these two back panels. And I'm just using a little bit of sandstone here and there to give it a little bit of an aged appearance. Then the rest will be filled in with the regular sandstone, like that. And I try to make each one look a little bit different. That helps it have a more random appearance and less planned. Then to these back two. And you can see that when we come back outside the build and we remove these temporary blocks, that our wall is sitting one back from these posts. Now for the rest of the panels, we're just going to be filling them in level with the posts, but again we'll be mixing in a little bit of sandstone for texture. So it'll end up looking something like this. So let's go ahead and add these to the rest of the walls. All of the walls are filled in now, so I can go ahead and replace the glass in these windows. You can see I've also filled in then those one wide gaps there. While we're at it, I'm going to come inside the build and I'm going to build up in this corner with some barrels. This is where I'm going to be adding my ladder. And don't forget, you can always change the placement of this later. I'm going to place my ladders on there, and then I'm going to fill in every one of these panels at the top with some spruce slabs. I'm placing these on the top level, and by doing so, we're going to create the look of some beams from underneath, which is a great architectural detail. Now we can start adding in the gables for the roof and last story of this build. We're going to work on the front and back gables first. I'm going to start with some stripped spruce logs, building up one high on either side like that. Then I'm going to build up 8 high in the center. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. Next, I'm going to be placing in the glass blocks for my window. So I'm going to come to this central post. Skipping the bottom block, I'm going to add in 2 glass on either side. Then we're going to be using sandstone again for our walls, and we're going to be building up in a group of 2 first, like this, followed by another group of 2, and one more group of 2 at the top, creating a shape like that. And then you can either do this as you build or afterwards like I am, but I'm going to go in with some more sandstone to add texture like we have on the rest of the walls. There we are, there's our first one. Let's go ahead and do the same thing on the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then we can add in our windows and create the shape of our gable. And there we are. Now let's move around to the other 2 ends of the build. So these are the longer walls on either side. We're going to start with some smooth sandstone. I'm going to skip this block here and create a little L shape like this and like this. So it's 2 blocks and then 2 blocks. Then I'm going to grab some stripped spruce logs and build up 5 high on either side. And I'll connect these along the top. I'm going to place 3 smooth sandstone along the base, and I can place my window in here and surround with some more sandstone. Just like that. Then coming up to complete the point, I'm going to build 2 high on either side, and then build up 4 high in the center with some more stripped spruce logs. So the shape will look like this. Let's go ahead and create this on the other side, and then I'm going to go back in and add in my texturized blocks. There we are, the shape is in. Let's go in with some sandstone now. Now, one thing to keep in mind when you're doing any of your texturizing is that by adding in more of these rough texture blocks like the sandstone and then the cobble and the cracked stone brick down here on the base, it is going to give the build a more aged appearance. So if you want your build to look newer, you can use less of these blocks. And around to this side. I'm making sure by looking through that I'm not creating a mirror image of what we have on that side, so I might move my blocks around just a bit. And let's see, I think I'll move that one up and like that. There we go, we've got our gable walls in. We're ready to add in our roof, and for the design we're creating a gradient from a light at the bottom to dark at the top. And it'll look something like this. Now I'm going with yellow, orange and red terracotta, but the wonderful thing about this is you can customize it to suit your color scheme, and stay tuned to the end because I'll be showing you some variations on this. I'm going to start in this front left hand side, building across with my yellow. We're creating defined layers of color first, and then we'll go in and texturize to create a smoother gradient. You can see that I'm then creating another layer, this time wrapping around to meet up with this other gable. What we're going to be doing is zigzagging between the larger and smaller gables, making sure we extend out one block from each wall like this. Now that we've got this layer in, I'm going to add one more layer of yellow on this side and I'll switch to my orange. So for this orange, you can see that we're following the shape created by the gable walls. So I'll build up 2 high with the orange coming along this way, connecting it up to here, and we have orange for the next layer of our smaller gable too. I'm going to add one more layer of orange on the top of here, and one more layer on top of the smaller gable as well. The next sections of the roof are out of my darker color, so this is the red terracotta. Another layer over here, making sure we extend out our one block, and over here. And finally, we need to finish off the tops of both of these roofs by building up 2 high in our darkest color or red terracotta if you're creating the same gradient as me. And over here as well. So there we go, we've got 1/4 finished. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the back, following exactly the same pattern. So we're going to start off with a row of yellow down here, a row of yellow that wraps around to meet up with the second gable. Then I'm going to have an extra row of yellow, 3 blocks here, and we'll switch to our orange and continue up the roof. I'm just filling in the last section of this back quarter of the build, and we've got 2 more blocks to add in, and there we go. So we've got about half done. We need to do these 2 corners and they are the same. So we're going to start with our yellow terracotta coming out along here 2 blocks. Then we're going to wrap around like this, joining up these 2 gables, and we'll add in an extra 3 yellow terracotta to this layer. Then we're going to switch to our orange terracotta for 2 layers. So there is our first layer on both sides, going in with another layer, and another layer over here as well. And then we've got our red terracotta to finish it off. There we go, we need to add our next layer of 2 on the very top of this large gable. And that corner is complete. So let's go ahead and do this final section of the roof. Again, starting with our yellow terracotta, then orange and red. I'm just placing in my last few blocks of red now. And there's no gaps in this roof and we've got the whole thing filled in. So you can see that we've got our kind of base colors in, and we need to create this gradient effect by bringing some of the dark colors down and some of the lighter colors up. So let's work on that. I'm going to start by bringing the orange down a little bit and bringing some of this yellow up into this layer. The thing here is taking lots of steps back, checking how you like it, and coming back in and changing things. So I'm going to place a red down here to bring some red down, and I'm actually going to bring a yellow right up here. Let's add a red over here, and let's come over this way and add a little bit more yellow. I think I'll add an extra block in there. Now let's bring the orange a little higher up. Let's add one here, I think, and a couple over here. Then I'm going to have a few more coming right up to the top. And I'll take a step back and see if I like that. I think that looks pretty good. My blending is also going to include blending between the two roofs. So next I'm going to move over here. I'm going to add a yellow in here and a red over here, I think. Then I'm going to add another yellow coming up this way, an orange up here. And I think I'm going to bring a red further down this way and place an orange over there. So that's pretty well blended. So let's continue working on the rest of this roof. Now that our roof has its beautiful gradient, we need to add on some details. So I've got some dark oak materials here as well as some strip spruce logs. I'm going to add 2 strip spruce logs out from each point like this. Then I'm going to go in with the dark oak. Let's start on these largest gables first. I'm going to place in a dark oak stair here. Then we're going to have one more coming up. Then we're going to place upside down ones on the bottom of each 2-high stack of roofing materials. And we'll come back down the other side doing the same thing with our 2 stairs here. And I'll place another stair on top of that. So if we look from the end, it'll look like this. At the very top of the roof, I'm going to add in 2 dark oak planks with a stair on top, and you can see that I've got the stairs swooping towards the rest of the roof. Then also coming down the sides of this decoration, we're going to add in a few dark oak trapdoors. So it'll look like this. Now that I've got this edging in, I'm going to extend these stripped spruce logs out 1 extra so it has a 1 block overhang. And I'm going to create the same design on the other side and a smaller version on this roof. So for the smaller version, we'll start off the same way with our 2 stairs, our upside down stairs, and we'll come back down the other side. We've got our 2 stairs here, our stairs on top. We've got dark oak planks and a stair on the top of that, followed by our trapdoors. And to finish it off, we'll extend the strip spruce log by 1. So it'll look like this. Let's move on and do the other 2 gable ends following this same format. I'm just adding in the last few details to this last section of roofing. And I've got to add in my strip spruce log as well. And now we need to add some of this dark oak edging along the tops and the bottoms of each of these roofs. Let's start on the bottoms first. So starting at one of the large gables, we're going to place a dark oak trapdoor coming off of this stair. And then we'll alternate between slab and trapdoor till we reach a point like this. So again, on this side, we'll start with our trapdoor and then alternate between slab and trapdoor. There we go. We're going to do the same thing from this edging here, starting with our trapdoor, and over on this side as well. Like that. Let's do the same thing on the front now. You should be ending up finishing on a dark oak trapdoor like this. Now we need to do the tops of the roof, and we're going to be doing something fairly similar. So I'm going to start with my trapdoor and alternate like this. And then when I come to this end section here, I'm going to be placing in a slab followed by a stair. Then along the large roof, we'll just start with our trapdoor and alternate back and forth between slab and trapdoor. So overall, here is how our roof should be looking. That edging really does bring it to life. Before we move on from the roof, let's add in our chimneys. I'm going to start on one on the front here. I'm going to find this layer, so not the top layer, the layer down from that. And I'm going to count 2 blocks in and place in a stone brick stair. I'm also going to place in an upside down stair like this. Then we'll have 2 stone bricks, 2 more stairs flaring outwards like this, and then we're going to place 3 stone bricks on top of that. And this is where we'll add our first campfire and surround with spruce trapdoors. So that's our first chimney. For our next chimney, we're going to come around to the back of the build, and I'm on this larger gable here. I'm going to count 2 sections down, 1, 2, and that'll bring me to here. I'm going to place in a stone brick stair 1 block in from the edge with a block underneath that. I'm going to have a wall on either side of here and a stair upside down below. Let's add in 2 stone bricks with some stairs on top of here. So it's looking like this. Then we're going to build up 2 high with some more stone bricks. We've got 2 more stone brick stairs and then 2 more stone bricks on top of that. And this will be where we add our next campfire. Keep in mind that if your chimneys don't look exactly the same as mine, that's okay, we're just going for this whimsical feel. For our final chimney, we're going to come around to the very back of the build on this large side. I'm going to go to this orange layer and count 3 blocks in. 1, 2, 3. And on this 3rd block, I'm going to place in a stair like this. We'll have a block and then a stair on the other side. I'm also going to be placing an upside down stair down here and build up 3 high with blocks. I'm going to go in with 2 stone brick walls coming up like this. Then we've got a stair coming this way, building up 2 high with blocks and 2 more with my walls. Then we're going to go in with some stone brick stairs. This time we're going off to the side, so when you're looking towards the roof, it'll look like that. Let's build up 2 more with bricks, and we're going back towards the roof now with 2 more stairs, 2 more bricks, and then our final campfire with trapdoors. So let's take a look at this chimney. From the side, and from the back. Now it is time to add in all of the details to this build. We're going to come down to the back to add in our first detail, which is the little patio area out here. I'm going to start by placing a strip spruce log on each of these points, so that's 3 blocks out from the wall and 3 blocks spaced apart. I'm going to add a barrel on top of here and a spruce slab on top of that, making sure our barrels are facing upwards so we can cover up that door side. I'm going to go in with some spruce stairs next to create a border going all the way around. We've got some spruce trapdoors going on here. And then for the flooring, I'm going to be using some more stripped dark oak logs, placing them opposite to the direction they're running interior here. Then we're going to be using some of these dark oak hanging signs for the railing, so you can see that I'm placing them in like this so they end up with the bar across the top. So it'll look like this. We're going to use the same sort of design around here on the front. So let's start off by adding in our stripped spruce logs and the barrels on top. Then we've got our spruce slabs. We're going to grab our stairs next, placed upside down here. But for this section in front of the doorway, I'm just going to wrap them around to create a staircase up. And one more in there. Let's place in our dark oak logs next. Our spruce trapdoors. And last but not least, our dark oak hanging sign railing. You'll need to be holding crouch to place them onto the barrels. There we go. Moving on to some other details now, let's work with some spruce. I'm going to start by placing in a location for a planter. That's going to be just here. Then I'm going to place in a spruce trapdoor above this stair and this stair here. Coming around to the side, we've got ones above each of these trapdoors. And then around to the back, we're going to place in the location for another planter. This time it's going to be here, below this window. Again, we're going to go in with some more spruce trapdoors, one there and there. And then we're going to place signs in each of these gaps. So we've got spruce signs just filling in this space. This is a subtle detail that really enhances the build. I'm also going to come around to this end of the build and add in trapdoors above each of these stairs. And once again, I'm going to be placing some spruce signs in each gap. Next, I'm going to take some more spruce trapdoors and I'm placing these below this stair and this stair on the side. Then around at the back, I'm going to place one below this stair and this stair, just like that, as well as this stair on the back. Coming around to the other side, we'll place one on either end. And then to the front, we've got one here and one below this stair and this stair. Next, let's come up and work along this top edge. We're going to place in a spruce stair first, and this is going to go below each of these logs. And then when we come over to this section of the build, it'll go below each of the roof points on these posts. And we'll do the same thing coming around the sides of the gables and along here. Once again, we've got a few more just coming along this way. And we'll be placing some spruce trapdoors below each of these stairs. Next, I'm going to take some spruce slabs and I'm going to place them along the front and the back like this. Then I'm going to come to the two side gables. These are the larger ones. I'm going to place them coming along this layer here. And I'm going to grab some more logs and have them coming out of each of these joins like this. I'm going to place a stair at the top and then two of the spruce fence coming down from there, 1 and 2. I'm going to place in 2 more stairs and some fences coming down from here. And I'll create this same decoration on the other side. And don't forget to add your slabs in here as well. There we go. Coming back around to these smaller gables, I'm going to be placing a barrel at the very top, followed by a stair, and then I'll have fences going right down to the bottom. Just like that. And again on the back side of the build. Now we're going to move on to decorating all of these windows. Let's start on the 4 windows that are in these set-back alcoves. For this, we're going to start with some hay bales, and I'm placing 3 along like this. Then we've got oak slabs coming forward, and I'm going in with a couple of dark oak fence gates. I'm also going to place in some dark oak slabs like this and a flower pot on top. And I'll repeat this decoration on this other back window as well as the 2 at the front. If you're enjoying today's video and would like to access some additional benefits like world downloads for this and all my other builds, as well as access to a multi-world Minecraft server, check out my Patreon. I'd love to have your support and have you join my community. There we are. Continuing with these hay bale decorations, let's head up to these 2 large gables. We're going to be placing the same sort of canopy that we created way back at the start of the video above the doorways up here. So I'm using hay bales and I'm placing 2 rows like this. Then we've got some rails coming up and I can remove these 2 and some ladders coming down. Then we've got dark oak fence gates here and here. I'm going to place in a row of dark oak slabs with a pot in the center. And then I've got these custom brown banners which look like window shutters to finish off the look. Let's create this same design on the opposite side. Next, let's add in the decorations to the windows of these small gables. We're just going to be placing 2 slabs just underneath like this with pots in front. And then we're going to add in 2 of our window shutter banners. Let's do this on the front. And I'm going to use this same decoration down here on the window by the front door. So we've got our 2 slabs, 1, 2, our banner, and our flower pot. Next, we're going to create some planters. Let's start by adding the ones that are on top of these stairs. So we're placing in coarse dirt and I'm surrounding that with some dark oak trapdoors. We've got one on the front and one on the back. While I'm back here, I'm going to add in another planter just to this side of the window. And then around on this side where we have these 2 hay canopies, we're going to add some in here, one off to either side. And I'm also going to go ahead and add brown banners with my window shutter pattern to these windows, as well as this window at the back. While I'm here, I'm going to create an archway using some dark oak stairs, one on either side and a slab in the center. So it'll look like this. And I'm going to do the same thing on these 2 planter windows. There we are. Now the rest of the windows on this build on both the lower story and this upper story are going to have the same decoration. So we'll place in 3 dark oak slabs, 2 of our banners, a pot in the center, and then an archway over the top. Let's go ahead and repeat this design all the way around with our slabs, our archway, our banners, and last but not least, our flower pot. All of the windows are decorated now, and we've got a few more decorations to add. Let's start by placing in 3 planters along this side, just with a coarse dirt surrounded by a dark oak trapdoor. Then we're going to create the first of 2 covered areas above these 2 windows. So I'm going to grab spruce fences and count 3 blocks out. 1, 2, 3. And then on that 4th block, I'll build up 3 high with my fences. I'll count 3 along, 1, 2, 3, and on the 4th block, I'll add another one of these posts and 1 more along. 1, 2, 3, and there we go. And that should be lined up with the post of our little veranda area. Then I'm going to grab some dark oak slabs and place the first layer coming along this way. I'll add in an extra one and come up for the next layer. And an extra one down here. Let's do the same thing again for the next layer. And finally, we have one more layer coming in here. So I'm just filling in these 3 gaps. And there we go. Now that we've got the shape of this roof, we're just going to extend it all by 1 to either edge. So there's our first edge, and over to this way we're going to do exactly the same thing. So you can see that we've got this 2 deep edge on that layer as well. The second covered area is at the back of the build, and it's going to be a log storage area. So I'm going to be placing in 2 slabs like this and a slab coming forward. Then I'll come across 3 and add in another 2 slabs and connect this up like this. Then we're going to place in a couple more spruce fences, one on either side, and there's our little log cover. With a stack of logs under here, we're going to place in a few of these oak logs, followed by some campfires. The great thing about these campfires is that by placing them in like this and using a shovel to put them out, they look like small piles of kindling. Let's move up now and add in some more details. I'm adding in some decorated pots. This is a great way to be able to add even more greenery and decoration to a build, and you could use ones with designs on them if you'd like. 2 more around this side. There we are. While we're up here, let's add in a grindstone with some chains hanging down, and I'm going to be placing a lantern onto this. I'm having one of these at each of the gables. hanging them all at the same length. I think this gives it a bit more of a natural appearance. Let's hang this one down a little bit lower. There we go. I'm also going to be hanging a lantern down from a grindstone on the corner of each of these parts of the build. Over this side as well. And let's see, that one over there is hanging one chain length down, so let's hang this one down too. There we are. I'm going to add some lanterns underneath here. Let's place one in here and one over this side. I think we'll hang it over here. That looks nice. I'm going to have pots on either side of the doorway, as well as some pots over here. And I've just seen that I've got this one more window to decorate. So I'm going to go ahead and use the same decoration we had over on the other sections of the build. So we've got our small archway, followed by the slabs at the base. We've got a flower pot, and of course, we've got our custom window shutter banners. I'm just adding in the last few details now, placing in my flowers. And you can see that I've gone with a collection of flowers that match with the color scheme of the build. And if we can take a step back, you can see that I fully decorated it. Now I've gone with decorating this build as a tavern, so I've placed some seating out the front here and I've decorated with lots of barrels. So we have some piles of barrels off to the side, and if we take our step round to the back, you can see we've got a few more back here as well as this large custom barrel. But with a build like this, there are tons of ways you could decorate and lots of ideas, so check out the description down below for some tutorials on decorations for both the interior and exterior of this build. As for some other decor here, I've placed this along a street where I've got some other fantasy medieval builds. I've used some gravel along with some dead coral blocks to create a textured gravel appearance for where I've placed down my seating, and even if you're decorating this as a house, this is a great way to ground the build. I've created a small pathway and used lots of greenery to decorate, so you can see we've got these azalea bushes around the outside as well as draped down the roof, and this helps to add a pop of greenery to the top and soften the gradient just a little bit more. As for flowers around the outside of the build, since we have such a lot of colour going on up here, I've stuck to a colour scheme of white. That way the build is the showcase. A few more details before we have a look at this build in some other colours. We've got some hay and some wheat planted around here, and this is a really great way to frame a build and it works well for whatever colour you go with. And then if we come back around here to the back, I've got a well off to one side, and this is a perfect medieval touch. Alright, let's check out how we can customize this build with some different colour palettes. So here is our first variation, and you can see that I've gone with a purple gradient, including some of this beautiful amethyst at the top, and this has a super fantasy feel. To tie in with the light colour of the amethyst up here, I've used some purple in place of the hay bales down here, and that is a really great touch. As for the walls, I've also swapped those out, so instead of the smooth sandstone and sandstone in here, you can see I've gone with a mixture of this white wool and the white calcite. That brighter colour really complements the kind of cooler toned scheme we've got with the purple. One other thing you'll notice is that I've swapped out my greenery. Now of course you can use whatever kind of plants you like, but I've chosen flowers that match with the colour scheme. So you can see here that we've used some of these magical picture pods, and they work great with the fantasy style, as well as some other blue and green flowers. Let's check out another colour palette. Here you can see I've used a mixture of these cyan toned blocks. So for the gradient, I've swapped it from dark at the bottom to light at the top, to dark at the top and light at the bottom. So here we've got some prismarine, blending in to some of these warped planks, and then at the very top we've got dark prismarine, and it really looks great with the dark oak, doesn't it? For the walls here, I've stuck to the sandstone and smooth sandstone, and I think that the mixture of that with the dark oak helps to warm up this colour scheme. To bring in a magical touch for my flowers, I've used some of these twisting plants from the nether, along with my other blue and green greenery. Another change you can see for this colour palette is that I swapped out the hay for this cyan wool, and this gives the appearance of cloth awnings and works great with the colour scheme. Let's check out another variation. And here we go, we can see that for this one I've gone with a pink colour scheme, and a great way to decorate this one would be to place it in a cherry biome. I've still got mine here in the spruce, which of course works well because we still have these neutral toned woods. But for the roof I've used a mixture of the cherry planks, fading into some pink wool, and then we've got some pink concrete for our darkest colour. For the canopies themselves I've used the stripped cherry logs, or rather the wood, so that way we have this bark texture on all of our sides. For my planting here, as well as having my pink flowers, I've swapped out my regular azaleas for these flowering azaleas. So now you have a stunning fantasy medieval build. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a like and subscribe, and leave a comment with which colour variation you went with. I'll see you in another video.